Hello and welcome to Trainspotting. In this episode, I venture to East Anglia to see how a branch line has been given a new lease of life. Mark discovers the delights of the age-old practice of banking, up steep inclines of course. He also gets to travel on the Yellow Doctor that has taken track testing to new levels of sophistication. And I ride on the smallest public railway in the world on its biggest day of the year. Look at this beauty, a precision piece of steam engineering, a classic 462 Pacific loco. But the best thing is, it's a third scale, and it's the jewel in the crown of the Romney, Hythe and Dymchurch Railway. The Romney, Hythe and Dymchurch Railway was founded in 1926 by a certain Captain Jack Howie in order to fulfil his dream of operating a 15-inch gauge passenger express railway. Through ups and downs, it's remained open ever since and is now an extremely popular attraction on the south coast. David, you're one of the signallers here.
Yes.
Where are we? I mean, this looks a busy place.
This is New Romney signal box. We're at the centre of the railway. We've got 8 miles that way, double track, 6 miles that way. We have about 9 locos operating service today.
This isn't an ordinary day at the railway, is it? Something special?
Certainly not, yeah. This is our annual gala event. We have all available engines in service. Really is the main line in miniature this weekend.
And what's it like on a day like today when you really see the railway as it should be and it running to capacity?
You get in here you get a real buzz. This is really what Romney signal box is about, and I believe this is what the founder of the railway wanted this railway to, how he wanted it to operate.
I hear on the grapevine that there's something extra special.
That is right. I mean, we have the parallel parade tonight, and because we have 8 miles of double track, we can run 2 trains in the same direction. The punters know that they will eventually both end up at Dungeness, but of course we have single line from here. So one of them will run non-stop to Dungeness, one will have to stop here, and we're not letting on which one is going to work through. The drivers don't even know. They'll have a brown envelope issued to them with their turn at 5 o'clock tonight.
Bit of bribery going on?
I've seen the punters interrogating the drivers this morning, and they don't know. So that was the plan.
Steve Bell, you're not local to these parts. What are you doing here?
Oh, well, the railway invited me down to bring this loco as the guest for the gala weekend.
OK, so what is the engine? Tell us about it.
It was built about 10 months ago by a company called the Exmoor Steam Railway.
How would it differ from one of the other locos here?
It takes advantage of modern technology to a point. The main wheel bearings and all the bearings in the main rods are all roller bearings, whereas on the others they're plain bronze bearings.
And this normally runs on your railway, does it?
Yes, that's right.
Which railway is that?
It's called the Evesham Vale Light Railway in Worcestershire. The railway itself's probably about 1.25 miles long, runs uphill, down dale, around twists and turns in a country park. So to come down here, it's something totally different, a chance to stretch its legs and see what it's really capable of doing.
Richard Batten, you're one of the senior drivers here. I mean, these locos are amazing, aren't they?
Yeah.
This one in particular, Hurricane,
Well,
tell us a bit about this one.
It was the captain's favourite engine most of the time.
What made it the captain's favourite, do you think?
She was a 3-cylinder machine.
Yep.
He used to race this engine with Typhoon, which was also 3-cylinder, and they used to race up and down the marsh, and it must have been frightening.
I bet it would have been in that day.
Anyway, I've got to do some shunting now,
Okay.
so if you'd like to join me on the engine...
Can I come on?
Yep.
Fantastic. How many miles do you reckon you've done then?
Somebody reckoned I've done about 250,000.
Joking. So this is the culmination of the diesel and steam gala. It's the parallel run from here to Dungeness. 2 double-headed locos. From here, they go down as far as New Romney on the dual track, then it splits down to 1 track. Somebody's got to go first. Only the drivers know, and they've just found out. But I'll tell you one thing, last one to Dungeness buys the drinks. Amazing. Whoever thought of an idea of getting 2 double-headed steam locos and just racing them one against each other? 8 miles of track from Hythe up to New Romney. That's where it goes down into one. Somebody's got to win. This matters now. This is more important than just travelling on a train. This is a race. This, my friends, is New Romney, which means we were on the winning train. Amazing feeling, exhilarating. Steam at its very best. Couple of devil-headed locos really go for it. We're going non-stop to Dungeness. They, back there, are getting the drinks in. Well, the other train's now arrived at Dungeness, having swapped over one of the locos at New Romney. We've now got Hurricane on the front of this one. We were the winners, but to be honest, everyone's been a winner today, and it's been one unique steam experience.
Since privatisation, we've been blessed, some would say cursed, with a multitude of liveries. But it's the simplest one that turns heads. And people ask, I wonder what that train does. This is the new measurement train, or Dr. Yellow as it's known in the business, in honour of the Japanese inspection trains. Now, since its introduction in June 2003, Network Rail has spent £8 million on the project. And Gary Sanford here is Head of Examination and Development for Network Rail. Gary, firstly, what does this train do?
Well, this train actually goes out and it examines the track and it does geometry measurements for us.
And can you talk about the formation of this 125?
Well, the train set has two 125 power cars. We then have two messing cars that also have generators, and that gives us the clean electricity that we need for the delicate instrumentation that we have. We then have as well a development car where we're looking at developing new techniques and new instruments to measure even more things. And then finally we have a conference car.
Before we got on board, Gary showed me some of the specialised measurement instruments that have been attached to the outside of the train. These include lasers, displacement rods, gyros and accelerometers, all of which provide data that allow Gary and his team to assess the state of the nation's track network. So Gary, we've seen the outside of the train. How was track maintenance conducted before the new measurement train came into service?
Well, before the new measurement train came into service, we had the HSTRC, which is the high-speed track recording coach. We had the track recording unit, and they ran around on a quarterly basis doing audit runs on track geometry. What we have now with the new measurement train is a new philosophy in inspection, which is to move from reactive measurement to proactive measurement, where we start to predict where the faults are going to be and try to remove them in a timely fashion so they never occur.
This conference carriage is quite impressive. What do we have on the screen here?
What you have is in the bottom left, you have track geometry.
You say track geometry, we're taking all aspects of the track, the curvature of it, the distance of the gauge.
Absolutely, and the relative position of the two tracks to each other. And what we've added for the track engineers, which they really like, is they can see the track geometry, and at the bottom right you can see we have two pictures of the wheels. I'll tell you what, I'll take you to this one where you can really see it. You can see the nice shiny patch down the middle of the rail and the middle of the wheel and no flange contact, and that's what we're looking for. And for the first time, the track engineers can sit here, they can look at their geometry, they can look at that, and they can see what they're actually achieving. The guys love it. Stuff like the 6-foot gauging. Now, effectively what that is that's giving us an idea of not the distance between the two tracks that we're running on, but how close is the track next to us. It also gives us the ballast profile, and that allows us to understand where we have insufficient ballast. And you may remember last summer there were problems with track buckling. Well, this will start to alleviate those problems. We'll know where to go. Then as well, we have different views from video cameras that we have. So the engineer can also be looking and seeing what the track conditions are. Is he on a viaduct? Is he coming across a bridge? Is it a particularly wet area? Those sorts of issues as well. We have the capability of doing instant replay. We can take clips off of it. It gives them a full picture for the first time.
So all the information, once it's been collated, where is it sent?
This information is sent back to Derby, where it's processed. We have a web portal that we put all the information in so the guys can get it straight off our intranet.
Now, all this modern kit you have on this train, you're actually going to be introducing it on normal passenger services in the future, is that true?
Well, not all of what we have on here, but the geometry aspects we will be. We're the first in the world to use what's called the UGMS, which is the Unmanned Geometry Measurement System. You can see on the right-hand side the two small pods. That's what the geometry systems are now. We're running those on the Chilterns now and getting geometry readings every single day.
So if the engineers do find a fault on a rail, how do they know the exact place of that rail?
Well, currently what we have are what we call route setting tapes, and the route setting tapes tell us the route that we're going to go down. It tells us the milepost, the quarter-mile post. And what happens is the train captain who's sitting back in the track recording unit is looking out the window for mile and quarter miles, and he has a button that he pushes that synchronizes. And unfortunately, you have short and long miles, as you can imagine. So 2 years ago, we went out and we did a survey with GPS of the whole of the network from a special survey train. And we got down to sub-meter accuracy. We've taken that and we've built that back into a computer program. So the train always knows where it is.
And you can get to within a metre of accuracy.
Within a metre. The reason it's exciting is it moves us from a reactive railway measuring on a quarterly basis to a proactive railway where we can start to predict where the faults are. It'll mean fewer speed restrictions. It's a way that I don't believe any railway in the world has tried to do seriously before.
This is Shap, one of the steepest gradients on the network. It's 1 in 47 for 4.5 miles, which basically means that every 47 feet it goes along, it goes up 1 foot. Imagine a steam engine pulling a 1,500-ton coal train up this gradient. It would struggle. Modern traction, though, it's no problem whatsoever. Inclines have drawn rail enthusiasts for generations. There is no better place to see or hear a loco working really hard than when it's battling against gravity. In the days of steam, it was common to see even the largest of engines struggle when they came to an incline such as Shap. As freight trains became heavier, they would often slow to a walking pace, so there was a need to make sure that they arrived at their destinations on time without holding up passenger services. It was decided to give these slow-moving beasts a helping hand, or a helping loco, and these helping locos became known as bankers. A fleet of bankers would sit in steam at the foot of an incline, ready to assist when required. Quite often, two would be used for particularly heavy trains, and as they were not actually coupled, the rear loco would slow down and come off the back first, followed by the second loco, thus ensuring a smooth transfer of power and control back to the driving engine. The advent of more powerful diesels did not remove the need for banking completely, and here you can actually see a Class 40 being banked by a steam loco. And indeed today, very heavy loads still need assistance up some of the steepest inclines, one of which is just outside Bromsgrove, where I met up with Richard and Andy Wilson, two brothers with an expert knowledge of the infamous Lickey Incline. So what's the history of the Lickey Incline?
Well, it started as an idea in the early 1800s, and obviously they had to come past the Lickey Hills. They looked for an alternative route around the hills, but with expense and all, they decided just to go straight up it, and which ends to be about 2.2 miles and a 1 in 37 climb.
So this makes it the steepest mainline gradient?
Steepest mainline gradient. I believe there's a few branch lines that have got a steeper gradient, but for day in, day out services, this is the steepest.
Does trains still have to struggle to come up here?
Yeah, that's why they employ a banker for certain freight trains.
So take me through a banking session, or whatever you would call it.
Well, the banking loco leaves Saltley, comes down light engine. It'll come down the bank, pass over into the upper loop, go down there and sit down behind the set of points. The freight will come in front of it, then pull up to the light. Banker driver will then come up to the back. He'll then get out, press a button to let the driver at the front know that he's ready to bank.
Right, so we press the button, he's let the driver at the front know that he's ready. What happens then?
If there's nothing else about, there'll be a 4-minute wait then he'll be let out the bank, and both engines pulling and pushing all the way up over to the top. As soon as they go over the arc of the top, the driver lets the power off and then applies a little bit of brake and then therefore drops off. The train goes on, carries on at its normal speed. The banker then comes inside and then waits for the signal to go back down to the bottom.
It wasn't long before we were passed by a train of empty wagons coming back down the incline. But here, obviously, gravity is giving it all the assistance that's needed. So that would just be coasting down there now, would it?
Yeah. It's all done just with brake, no throttle, brake, and then as soon as he's off the bottom, he'll still have enough momentum until he gets to about Stoke Works with the weight of the train pushing.
Pre-1960s, it was very different with steam engines and such. They'd actually have to stop at the top of the bank, and the brakesman would have to pin the brakes down.
Would you have to have a loco on the back to help hold it back sometimes?
Not all the time, but sometimes it was known that if a banker had just pushed one up, they would put a banker on the back sometimes to give it some brake force.
You'd have thought that with the increase in power of modern locomotives, banking on the Lickey incline would become obsolete. Well, this isn't the case because as locomotives become more powerful, freight trains become heavier. So it looks as though we'll see banking on the Lickey incline for years to come.
We're all fully aware of the drastic closures that Dr. Beeching made to the branch line network of rural Britain back in the early 60s. Since then, it seems that these are the first lines to suffer when any cutbacks are considered, with the argument that they're underused and unprofitable. However, the Strategic Rail Authority has launched a new initiative that aims to reverse this trend and try and find ways to promote a public interest in keeping rural branch lines open. I met up with Chris Austin, who outlined the proposals.
It's very much looking at local and rural railways, and in particular getting more passengers to use them. And where it started to be introduced, it's been really successful.
And can you tell me about some of the places where this initiative's really taken hold?
You can see it working as a good example here in the station at Settle, which has been beautifully restored, and it's brought lots of visitors here. It's now part of the regular tourist trail, and it's been a tremendous success. Another example, in East Anglia, the Bittern line running north to the coast at Cromer. Very good example of local community involvement in the railway, big increases in passengers and an extra train as a result.
Leaving the mainline station of Norwich, the Bittern line runs for 25 miles out to the North Norfolk coast. Now named after a local wading bird, it was originally built in 1877 to carry Victorian holidaymakers to the resorts of Cromer and Sheringham. Post-Beeching, it's regularly been threatened with closure and, until very recently, had seen its services pruned back. However, since 1997, the initiative that Chris was referring to has been in place. Its aim is to encourage local organisations, businesses and individuals to take a more active part in the running of the line. This has resulted in a number of the stations being adopted or linked to a local tourist attraction. Kerry Howard has helped run the project for the train operator One Anglia. So, Kerry, where are we coming into now?
Well, we're now coming into Hythe and Wroxham, which links the Bittern Line Railway with the Norfolk Broads, and from here it connects with the Bure Valley Railway, which is a steam railway and attracts a lot of tourists.
The Bure Valley is a 15-inch narrow gauge railway that was opened in 1990 and runs between Wroxham and Aylsham. It uses the trackbed of the line originally built by the East Norfolk Railway in 1878 as an extension off the Norwich-Cromer line. At Wroxham, a link has been made with the boat hire companies to create the Broadlands Boat Train Initiative, which sees a large number of tourists use this as a starting point for a holiday or day trip on the Norfolk Broads. So where are we coming into now, Kerry?
We're coming into West Runton now. This is one of the stations where the local Women's Institute has been very busy for the past 20 years maintaining the station gardens, and they really are a fantastic example of what can be achieved.
It was a project for community work that the WI has set, and they saw this very run-down village station, lots of rubble, concrete, a depressing place really to catch a train from. So they thought, well, clear the rubble and plant a garden.
But it's not just the gardens, is it? Because the WI are far more active than that on the station, aren't they?
Yes, to actually raise funds to maintain the garden. We have a tea party once a year in August.
And there's another example at the Sheringham end of the line, isn't there, of a link?
Yeah, that's right. Just opposite Sheringham Station, there's the Norfolk Railway. That's another steam railway which goes from Sheringham up to Holt, right up on the coast, and our trains pull in right opposite there.
The Bittern line is essential to the North Norfolk Railway. It's part of a transport system that enables people to come from all parts of Norfolk directly to us. They don't have to use their car. They can just hop on a train, get off one form of transport, come across the road and travel on an old-fashioned form of transport.
So what have you got running today then?
The engine in use today is actually a War Department engine. It's a 210 wheel arrangement. It's a very large engine that spent a fair bit of its time in Greece. It's been repatriated and rebuilt in this country, and it's awesome, the actual sight of it.
So, the Bittern Line partnership shows that if you value the services that your local branch line provides, it is possible to get involved and try to keep it viable. But ultimately, do schemes like this achieve anything?
Absolutely, and because of some of the initiatives that the Bittern Line partnership has introduced, we've seen a 134% increase in passenger journeys. And last year we saw passenger numbers in excess of 400,000 people on the line. So all the initiatives that the Bittern Line partnership have put in place have really encouraged people to come back to rural rail services, and we've seen amazing growth. It's been a real success.
And the reason it was nicknamed a Hoover is because it sounded like a Hoover. Now, even you, I think, could tell me about that over there.
Oh yeah, that's a Class 66, built between 1998 and 2001 by General Motors, London, Ontario, Canada. Weighs 126 tonnes, it's 21.35 metres in length, has a design speed of 87.5 miles an hour, but a maximum speed of 75 miles an hour. Now, it holds 6,550 litres of fuel, which means that it can run for over 1,200 miles in between refuelling. And of course, it's the sister loco of the Class 59, which, Mark, I'm sure you can tell me all about.
Don't forget it's Fish on Friday from 9 with Nick Fisher casting off in Screaming Reels. We've got a daddy of DIY coming next though. Tommy promises to make it big after the break.